What is up, everybody? Good morning. Good morning. It's Dr. Vibe, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association. Also, I host the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that's sponsored by Dove Men Care, also co-sponsored by Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. And as always, I'd like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. And you are watching The Morning Vibe. And for those who are regulars, usually I have Mr. Ryan Knight with us. He is not with us today. So I'm going, as they say, Han Solo. For those Star Wars fans, I'm not a Star Wars head, so I'm going Han Solo today. But you know what? We're going to have an epic conversation anyways. So hope you had a great weekend. And before we do anything else, I'd like to say, the sponsor for today's Morning Vibe is the Macmillan Group. And the Macmillan Group has been providing mortgage solutions one client at a time since 1999. Buying, refinancing, or investing, call them at 905-813-4350 or visit the Macmillan Group at www.themacmillangroup.com. So there's your information. Let's get back to me on the screen. What is going on, family? Hey, first things first, again, just want to make sure you had a great weekend. Hope you're safe. And also, thanks to everyone who watched Friday's conversation. Wow. Still, it was massive. Friday's conversation was absolutely massive and had a great time in regards to all the conversations still overflowing, and we're continuing on to that theme. And hey, I want to say thank you. There's a lot of people jumping on already. Thank you so much. Thanks for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule to share with us today. So one of the things that has been a reoccurring theme on the Morning Vibe over a little over the year that myself and Ryan have been doing this epic conversation, or epic conversations, I'd like to say, is a whole thing of Black entrepreneurship and Black entrepreneurship loans. And I think last week we also talked about two articles that appeared in the Globe and Mail last week in regards to the whole loan program that's being administered by the federal government, and also loan programs from banks, et cetera, et cetera. It has been a very interesting journey. It continues to be an interesting journey. Well, today we have a guest, and this is a lady who is launching a lawsuit against the Federation of African Canadian Economics in regards to the way she feels she has not been handled properly by the whole process. So we are going to be bringing on Angela Lindow. It's the first time she's talking about this live, family. So be easy on her. She says she's nervous. I said, you're going to be excited, not nervous. So welcome to the Morning Vibe for the first time, and maybe, hopefully not the last time. Angela Lindow, how are you?
I am better and doing very well. Thank you so much for inviting me to your show. It's an honor.
I wanted to be on for a while, and everything happens in its right time. So looking forward to an epic conversation with you today. And I have a feeling you may be getting some questions through our chat. So be ready. I'm sure people will have some questions about what's been going on, past, present, and future. But let's find out a little about you first. Give some of your background to our audience.
Thank you. Well, again, thank you for inviting me to your show. Um,
It's our show, by the way. It's not mine. It's
it's
our. It's a.
our show.
It's a community conversation. Go ahead.
Thank you for the correction.
No
A little
problem.
bit about me for your listeners. As you know, my name is Angela Lindow, and I am the CEO of RDI. RDI is a company that is exploring the potential for storytelling and new digital media. Prior to founding my own company, I worked in and with the provincial government in anti racism and emergency management. I'm here because RDI, along with thousands of other Black owned businesses, were mistreated by the government and specifically by FACE. FACE is responsible. It's my understanding that FACE is responsible to administer the federal government program designed to provide loans to Black owned businesses and to support our work, specifically during the pandemic, but and beyond. And I feel that instead of offering us the lifeline that so many Black CEOs needed, it just became another broken promise. What FACE has done is an incredible, in my opinion, is an incredible detriment to all Black CEO, but it's more than that. It's part of a history of systemic racism that sees Black business leaders as disposable. Times have been difficult, but we're coming together as a community to stand up and say, we will not suffer further abuse by our own, not today and not ever. As a community, we need to do what we've always done, rebuild while standing up. We won't accept this treatment, even from within our own community and the organizations that were tasked to support us. So I am here to answer any questions about the lawsuit to the extent that I can. I should let everybody know that I am self-rep litigant. Um, but again, I'm here to answer any questions about the lawsuit to the extent possible and how this lawsuit fits into a broader picture of how we can stand up in the face of organizational negligence, institutional incompetence, and downright discriminatory abuse. And just to amplify our voices and correct the harm that has been caused by this community. So with that, I turn it over to you, and I'm
Mhm.
happy to answer questions.
Well, before we get into some questions, there are people already chiming in on the chat. Freddie King says, "Welcome, Angie." Marlon Stevens saying, "Good morning." Uh, I want to find out share with our audience, and I've seen it in print, but
Right,
what was your experience from your lens in
right.
regards to the program? Take us from start to finish. You have time.
Um,
It's not. This is your. As I said to you before we went live, you're driving the ship. I'm steering the ship. So people
right,
want to hear from your voice, not from an edited article.
right.
What you're comfortable to share about your experience. They would love to hear it from you.
Right. Thank you very much for that question. I think my journey with the Black Entrepreneurship Program began in around 2020, just after Justin Trudeau had made the announcement in the throne speech, talking about this Black entrepreneurship program that was there to help the Black community. I felt it was a significant move in the right direction, and let me share with you why I think that is. In my experience, I've worked with the provincial task force on race relations, and this task force was headed by the Honorable Claire Lewis. Claire Lewis uh, was um, instrumental in that this task force was set up for the Special Investigations Unit. and policing services. I left that and went into anti-racism with the provincial government. So there's a lot of anti-racism. There's a lot of equity issues that I've been dealing with professionally. And so when Trudeau made the announcement, after 20 or 30 years in this space, I thought this was a significant move. And I heralded that. So I was speaking to Justin Trudeau's office and Chrystia Freeland's office, and just expressing my joy in the program. So I loved it. So what happened specifically with myself and Face? Like everybody else, I was excited about the program. And the first day when it opened, I believe it opened on May 31st, it was disappointing because the entire system crashed. Not only did it crash, but it also, there was a phone number that you couldn't get in touch with anybody. And I think perhaps this was my first red flag, but I understand the challenges within the community and to try and get this set up. So it ended up being fine. Just quickly, what happened? I was assigned a face assessor, and by around June 14th, my assessor had contacted me. We spoke several times on the phone, and by the end of June, he had approved me for the $250,000 loan. And with that approval, it was wonderful to hear because he was just absolutely overjoyed.
Can I just interrupt you there just for a second, politely? So was this approval verbal or written?
The approval was verbal. And that's really important. It becomes important later on. So the approval was verbal, and their text messages and so on and so forth that would substantiate that.
Okay.
However, what really drove it home was when my assessor said to me, "Can you please provide your void business check?" And some other questionnaires which I provided. Now, it has always been my experience, not only with the federal government, but with lending institutions, that the final process in any sort of lending includes the provision of a void check. And my understanding at the time, it was made clear to me that the money would be deposited in the account within, again, 2 to 5 business days, depending on my banking. So from July, I contacted them numerous times, asking what had happened, what's going on, because by this time, I had, and there are many people out there that will say, "Why did you go ahead and hire students? Why did you go ahead or hire staff? And why did you go ahead and engage in contracts?" And I think it's a very valid question, and it's certainly a learning experience for me. But I think the difference here was that it was Justin Trudeau who said this, and there continues to be a tremendous amount of trust in him. I didn't know Face. I didn't know anything about them, but what I did know was Justin Trudeau, our prime minister, and how committed he was to this cause. And that was where my belief was. And because I'm a former civil servant, I understand the government processes. I understand when you make a promise like that to your constituents, there certainly is some accountability that you have for that. At any rate, so I emailed and contacted my assessor, and at some time in August, communication broke down, and I was told by him in a rather a difficult phone call that he was no longer in charge of my file, that my file was now in the hands of Tiffany Callender, the CEO of FACE, and Victor Paris, who is the loan officer.
Okay.
And I contacted both of them several times, emails, trying to get in touch with them. They did not respond to my emails at all. And the emails that I sent them had all of the information. I have been approved. I'm set to release, to have a soft release in August. What is happening? And it was shocking to me to understand. It was shocking to me to believe that an organization like of this magnitude would not respond at all. So I reached out to Mary Ang's office, and I tried to convey to them the.
Again, another interruption. So, and I will have some questions as you continue at the end, but people may not know who Mary Ng is. So we don't want to make assumptions that people know all these names. Take your glass of water. That's why I'm doing that for you. So do bring into the picture who Minister Mary Ng is.
Right. So Mary Ng is the minister responsible for small business. I don't exactly know her title, but she was given that portfolio, I guess, early in the Trudeau government, simply because we were looking to expand. Canada was looking to expand its international partners outside of the U.S., and we're Asian countries, China, and other countries, we were looking to explore or opening up businesses. So Mary Ng is the minister responsible. And so FACE reports to Mary Ng. So in August, when I was not receiving any information whatsoever from Tiffany Callender or Victor Paris, I then went to the minister and asked for help. I also went to the Krista Freeland's office, again asked for help because my business is in tatters.
Okay, so just to update people, so Mary Ng is the Minister of International Trade, Export Promotion, Small Business, and
Yes,
Economic Development.
thank
Krista Freeland is the Acting Finance Minister.
exactly, and
Okay,
she's also the vice
yeah.
president. And so and they didn't respond. It turns out that after the election of 2021, Victor Paris called me on, I believe it was September 23rd. Now, we'd had an email exchange before, and I was absolutely excited to hear from them. And I said so, and that I was hoping that it was good news. We weren't able to connect. A couple days later, he called me at around 6 p.m., a little after 6, and his words to me after the initial salutations were, FACE cannot support my application, which was downright shocking. It was unimaginable that a company who had approved my loan, who had asked me to provide detailed financials, who applauded my business plan, thought that my financial projections were even were on the lower end. But again, he ranted and raved about it, and by he, I meant my assessor at the time. So he called me and he said that, and I asked him why. Was it a question of credit rating? He said no, that wasn't it. I said if needed, I can get a cosigner. He said they don't work like that. Basically, I think what I was able to pull from him in that short conversation was that they didn't feel that I would be able to repay the loan in 6.5 years. I never heard that before. And certainly that was not part of the criteria. They had already approved me. It was surreal. It was absolutely surreal, that phone call. And I immediately after the phone call, I tried to get my bearings, and I sent him a text message because we were texting with each other in terms of what time I would be available in the evening. And he had texted me earlier that day, and so I responded. I messaged him, and I said, I think I have that text message where I asked him specifically to tell me in writing the reasons why FACE did not approve my application. And this was important simply because it would allow me the opportunity to address those issues. To this day, Victor Paris nor Tiffany Callender ever responded, neither in writing, which is interesting and problematic, because they will say that, well, we verbally or we have nothing in writing. Well, I put in writing requesting you to give me the reasons in writing, and they did not do it. And it's really important when we talk about communication and the ways in which communication is conducted between and amongst the institution and the organization. What you will see and what you will hear repeatedly is a lot of verbal approvals, and that in and of itself is problematic. So when I asked when I had asked FACE for something in writing, they didn't produce it. And my emails from I guess July until September, even in the subject heading, it said, please communicate with me. Please communicate. It just, I was begging them to just tell me what is going on. And that was the end of it. So I went into a downward spiral with the business, and we can go into that a little bit later or not. So eventually, what happened? So what brought me to the lawsuit? On January 4th, I had written the plaintiff claim. And before I was ready to submit it to the Superior Court in Ontario, I decided to reach out to FACE and let them have a look at the claim, but also give them the opportunity for us to talk and resolve it without publicity and without any fanfare, because I believed that CEO to CEO, we can certainly sit down and work this out, work something out that was going to be amicable. And I use that word specifically because Christelle Francois, who is the vice president of FACE, was the woman that I was communicating with. And that was what she said in her first email. We wanted to do something that was amicable. We went back and forth for a couple of weeks. And finally, on January 21st, I received a letter from Christine Francois. And I apologize if I'm butchering her name. And she basically laid out the reasons why. And one of them is that we have nothing in writing. Well, you also have nothing in writing contradicting my assertions that I've been approved. You've had months to come back and say, we're sorry, Ms. Lindow, X, Y, and Z. That didn't happen. And that's what I've said in the plaintiff claim. So we had 3 weeks in which we can talk, we were able to talk about it and try to come to a solution. It didn't happen. And so on January, they had shut that down again. And so January 25th, I filed with the Superior Court in Ontario. And what's interesting, and I think it's important to note, that when you file a claim, there's a certain time period that the defendants have in which they can respond. And one of the issues that I've had right from the outset is that there is no communication, whether that communication is by email or verbal. There isn't anything that they're not responding to emails, they're not responding to calls, they're not responding. And I think that there is, and that's where the institutional negligence comes in. We're talking about people who have told them personal information, and personal information in terms of, I think one of the questions that I remember is, how much life insurance do you have? And who's the beneficiary? I've never been asked that before in my life. But we had to put these important details down. What is your jewelry worth? How much sleep do you get at night? These very personal questions that you were asked. And this was the second part of the application before you got into your business. The first part dealt with you personally. The second part dealt with some other issues that they said I can't speak to why they wanted those, but we had given literally our souls to the organization and I think I certainly did it because I know that behind this was Justin Trudeau. And I didn't question it, although I should have. But my government instincts told me that because it's government, because this is not an institution, this is not a company, this is the prime minister, this is the top. And there was a tremendous amount of trust and respect and value that I had given to that. At any rate, so it. In the end, I had to file. Right. So the issue that I wanted to bring up was I filed January 25th. And to this day, I believe it is Monday, April 11th. Within the courts, you have 20 days in which to respond. If it's out of province, as the headquarters for FACE is located in Quebec, they're given an additional 10 days, 30 days. And FACE did not respond to a court order. Not a court order, my apologies if I'm using the wrong terminology. They didn't respond to my court filing. And it took letters to Mary Ng's office, to Justin Trudeau from in February and in March, letting them know that this is unacceptable, that I've never been treated like this in all my days of working anti-racism, even just personally with institutions. I'd never been treated with such disrespect and devalued the way that I was treated by my own, and that has taken a long time to overcome. And so there were several letters that I'd written. I had written one letter specifically to Justin Trudeau, several letters actually, and basically letting them know that the government is in default. The government is in default because the time frame had elapsed, and neither any of the three defendants had responded to me. And that was a further degradation of my journey, because it wasn't just about me anymore. It was about an institution and an organization that not only didn't care about their constituents, and that, of course, is the Black community, they didn't even care enough to even respond. And keep in mind that they knew about this on January 4th. Today, as I said, is April 11th. I had spoken to their lawyer about a week or so ago, or 2 weeks, where they had asked for an extension until April 20th to be able to file their defense. And I had agreed that I would not ask the judge to file a default judgment on FACE, that I would give them that time to have.
What's a default judgment?
Default judgment is well, you didn't respond, so technically whatever it is that I've asked for would be granted.
So why did you not do that?
I wanted to. I think deep down, two reasons. I still have a lot of respect for the Prime Minister and the Prime Minister's office and what they wanted to do. And I didn't think that a default judgment would get to the more serious issues as to what is happening. How can this organization be accountable for its disrespect and devaluation of the constituents that of their own constituency. I by this time as well, I had found others within the Black community, and there is a group of us, and we're talking about their particular situations that oftentimes mirrors mine, and so there's movement is to what should we do to resolve this, because it's not just about me. When you have an organization that approves less than 1%, we would never accept this from any banks. We would never accept this as a community. When I say that, we would never accept this. And I think that has, we can go into that later when but there were so many other issues at play, and I think the face group lawsuit group that I am part of, wanted to be able to bring these issues out and to try and fix the problem beyond ourselves. I think that sums up why I didn't want to do a default judgment. There may be other reasons, but at this point, and I think also when they responded on March 21st, I thought, let's give them a chance to.
So what is, so they have the 10 days. What happens when if the 10 days come up and there's no response?
Well, now they will respond, because now they have they have legal representation. They're being represented by Gowan.
Who's Gowan? I have no idea.
Oh, sorry. Dowling is one of the biggest law firms.
Oh,
Yeah, it's huge.
okay.
And I know that. Anyway, Gowling is huge. And I think by the time this is all wrapped up, and, they're looking at the possibility of hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. And it's sad, because we could have done this as mature, professional business professionals, and that didn't happen. And so now they're going to have to use public funds, perhaps some of the $9 million that Justin Trudeau has just given them for. I'm sorry, that's being mean and facetious, but certainly now they are looking at paying for legal fees and using public funds to be able to do that. And that's alarming, because the opportunity to negotiate and to discuss this outside of the public view and outside of legal discourse was offered to them. And for whatever reasons, their calculus was, we're going to ride it out. I don't know.
So your group,
right?
Do you have a lawyer representing you?
I do not. And the reason being, this is FACE often talks about their ecosystem partners, and one of their ecosystem partners is Black Business and Professional Association. And I had applied for some services that they offered through the BAIDS program. And back in sort of April, May of 2021, two services that I had asked for were legal services and accounting. There's some interesting backstory there, but it's interesting because one of the lead executives at BBPA, early days, had it's sad what happens, but BBPA was supposed to provide legal services for me. And when they finally approved my services in October of 2021, I looked at their registry of service providers and I said, your service providers here for legal, there's no one that represents corporate business. And so, executive at the time said that, if I were able to get a quote black law firm, it should be fine. I introduced them to the lawyer that I had wanted to work with, and that was another lawyer from Gowling.
Oh, okay.
Interesting, and that's how I know Gowling. And so the lawyer from Gowling was communicating with BBPA to ensure that my services would be paid for. In the end, it didn't work out because on BBPA's side, and I have gone to them, and even the new president, I believe his name is Ross. I've spoken to um, Francis, who is I'm not sure what her position is in BBPA, and I've asked them many times, you have approved me for legal services. We tried working with Sandra Barton from Gowling, and that fell through. Um, and they have not come back to me at all, to provide the legal services that I needed, even though I've been approved. Now, there is a very close connection between FACE and BBPA, to the extent that, well, at any rate, so the legal services that were supposed to be provided by the ecosystem for my Gallon lawyer, Sandra Barton, was not facilitated by the ecosystem partners. And it was surprising for me to get the letter on to get that letter from Gowling, who now represents FACE. And I remember how costly they are and how phenomenal they are, now representing FACE. And that's problematic. So that's why I at the present, I do not have legal services, and I am a self-rep litigant. And we will take this as far as I can take this. Thank you for the question.
Do you feel you'd be better equipped in this situation if you had that sort of law firm representing you?
It's a very good question. I think that, yeah, absolutely would be advantageous to have legal services to represent me. It's one of the reasons why the ecosystem partners were set up in the first place, to help business owners like me, whether it's in accounting or marketing or legal services. But even that didn't come through. So it would be advantageous, yes. To be able to have a lawyer that not only represents my claim, but the other potential applicants that I'm with, and I think perhaps 14,000 others that have gone through some or similar experience that I have with FACE.
Okay, so a few questions I have here. Why did you
Yes.
go out and acquire resources, etc., when the money was not in your hand?
It's an excellent question, and it's a good question, and it's certainly, there are opportunities here for everybody to learn, and that's a lesson that I will take with me for the rest of my professional experience. I should not have engaged the way that I did. And I suppose the only reason why was just the absolute euphoria of having been approved, of believing and trusting. Listen, you know, we don't we don't know whether there is a God. We don't know, but in we believe in something for whatever reason. And I believed, and I think so many other Black CEOs believe, if this is coming from Justin Trudeau, because we didn't take it because it's coming from FACE. I believed it because it was coming from Justin Trudeau. And that's where my belief, you know, was. So will I do this again? Absolutely not. Will I still believe in people and their words? I have to, because I can't live a life where I'm going to have to second guess everything that someone says to me. Somebody says, I care about you. I don't want them to prove it. Just I believe that. And if you can't believe the leader of your country, um, and them telling you that this is for you, believing that the Black community has suffered um, disproportionately, the COVID and so many other institutional injustices. This was what he was speaking to, and I bought into it. I bought into it, and will I ever believe a prime minister again? Yes, I have to. Um,
Why
but
do you have to?
not have to. I'm sorry. Yes, I will, but I'll be a little bit more cautious this time. I won't hire anybody, and I certainly won't get into long-term contracts. But it was indeed a learning experience, and I think all the callers and your audience that say, "Well, you should not have done that." I agree with you. I agree with you. It should not have done. And as a business owner, there was my mistake. But I can say this to you. I have never RDI has never gone to any of the institutions for a loan with the company. This company has been self-financed. And the only time I decided to go outside of my own resources or my own financial capability was because of Justin Trudeau and because of what he said and his passion and his commitment in the throne speech and thereafter. Um, I don't know if it's a good answer. I'm worried it might. It is what it is. I did not do the right thing. And it's unfortunate that not only myself, but some of the people that I ended up hiring has suffered as a result of that. And I take 100% responsibility for it.
So then, who is at fault here, in your opinion? Because one of the statements you've made this morning is that you feel that Justin Trudeau is behind this. Is it him that you're faulting? Who are you faulting here?
I'm faulting fakes. I'm faulting the process. I'm faulting. Well, first of all, I want to say that what Mr. Trudeau's vision for the Black community was and still continues to be a just act. Mistakes are made. And whether that mistake is that during COVID, he just sort of, looked at the community leader within his own constituency. And that, of course, is Tiffany Callender, who was the executive director of Côte de Neige. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Up until November of 2021, and then just handed over the reins to her, believing that Tiffany, as a community activist, would be qualified to oversee, at the time, $296 million. And as the Globe and Mail reported, actually only turns out to be 160 million, but still, whether it's 1 million or 5 million, it's $160 million. And an executive director of a community organization, are they the most qualified individuals to oversee this funding arm for the Black community? And he may have thought that that was the right decision. Like I may have thought that listening to my assessor representing FACE that I had been approved, he may have thought as I did. But as you go along the process and you go along the journey, you see mistakes upon mistakes upon mistakes. And you have to, at some point, ask yourself, and you have to be able to accept responsibility for what's happened. But I think they're inseparable at this point. I think that Justin Trudeau is ultimately responsible, but I think face administrators, because they were the ones that didn't respond. They were the ones that did not say to me in all the emails that I sent that I've been approved. What's happening with the money? Please let me know what's going on. That wasn't Justin Trudeau. That was Tiffany Callender, and that was Victor Paris. And they didn't give a damn. They didn't care enough to answer my email. And that is shocking. And quite honestly, it's unimaginable. Because what I can say, had this organization, or was there, if there is a white organization or a bank out there that only approves less than 1% of Black applicants, as a community, we would demand justice. We would demand that, either they're canceled or something is done. And in this case, we're not holding those responsible accountable. And instead of trying to resolve it, we're awarding them with more money. And I understand that there are different links to this, but if there was a white organization out there that said less than 1% of Black applicants we're going to approve, and the reason why we can't approve them is that 14,000 can't properly finish an online application. What is that saying to the community? That we as Black CEOs aren't able to complete a questionnaire. And that's what makes us ineligible for funding. As the leader of an organization, Tiffany Callender should take responsibility and say, it is not the 14,000 applicants that couldn't fill out an online application, that she, as a leader, has to be able to take responsibility for that, to own it, and to say, what did we do in that application? What did we do in that questionnaire that offended or insulted or whatever it is, our constituents, so that they would not fill out a form? You can't blame that on 14,000 Black CEOs or Black entrepreneurs, that it's our fault that we could not fill out an application. That's not acceptable. And if anybody white had said that, we would be up in arms. And the thing that I believe, if we are going to speak out on racism, discrimination, and injustice, and privilege and bias, we have to be able to call it out when our own people are the perpetrators of that action. When our own people take advantage, don't return calls, say it's verbal, do not write anything down. When you know that somebody is out there and their business is failing, and it's because somebody within your organization has approved them, letter after letter going to Mary Ann, and nobody's responding. At any rate, it's shocking.
Okay, I have some questions here. A question here from Marlon Stevens saying, what role does Face play in the process? They are not actually in control of the loans. Please educate me.
What, Marlon, thank you very much for that question. The role they play is to answer my email. It's just respond. The role they play is, if you get a court order, and somebody is suing you, take it seriously. Don't let time lapse and just, oh, we're not going to do anything. We don't care about her. That woman's invisible. That woman is is nothing to us. I'm not asking them to approve every loan, but I'm asking them to do what they're asking us, and that is to run a professional organization that is accountable to its constituents and that responds to questions, that responds to, I haven't been approved. Where can I go? What can I do? How can I improve my situation so that should I apply in 6 months or in a month that I may be, I have a higher chance of success. That's what we're asking FACE to do. We're asking them to respond. We're asking them to email. We're asking them to pick up the phone and say, we're sorry that it has taken us so many months to get back to you. And while we can't, or BDC can't, the government did give FACE $33 million for the setup of its organization. So while BDC or whoever it is, the lending institutions aren't in a position to help, we ourselves have been given $33 million. Perhaps we can take that chance. Perhaps we can take that risk. That's what you want. We're not here for approvals. We're here for support. And that support comes in the most basic way, and that is respond to my question and help me understand how I can be more supportive of what you want and how you will be more supportive of what it is that I want. It's how to run a business. And if you look at the track record of FACE and you ask yourself, is that a business that I want to be? Is that a business that has failed? Is that a business that, where's your business plan? Where's your strategic, 2-3 year plan? Where are your financials? You're asking those things of me. You're asking me to tell you, what my sexual preferences are. I'm just asking you to respond to an email, and I don't get that. So,
Okay. All right.
thank you, Marlon, for that question.
Sean Thompson saying, I'd love to chat with Angela. Gowling represents Psych Graph, and we've had Sean on. I think we had him on last week. The company would not have been possible without them. They have been amazing. I can offer some insights that might be useful to her journey. We'll be certainly giving Angela's contact before we finish the conversation in a few moments.
Thank you.
So Marlon saying $33 million to set up an organization. How many employees are at FACE? General question, because there definitely seems to be gross mismanagement.
Thank you very much for that. What I know about, FACE is said, and even in the letter that they wrote to me on January 21st, we suggest you look at our ecosystem partners. Well, I know from those ecosystem partners, when this was set up back in November, December, January, February, March, I know that those ecosystem partners were left out of discussions with FACE. FACE, for whatever reason, and this is my own interpretation, may have felt that direct connection to the Prime Minister, and those ecosystem partners were not part of major discussions as to what was going on. And I know that because when the platform opened, there was myself and another executive from one of the ecosystem partners got on the phone with an executive from BBPA, and we were asking those questions. What is going on? And in that conversation, I was told that FACE had acted in a silo. They kept all of the information to themselves.
So let me ask, so in the lawsuit, is it just against FACE or is it against FACE and anybody else?
The lawsuit is, there are 3 defendants. The first is S.E. Samuel. S.E. Samuel was my assessor, and S.E. Samuel was also the gentleman who verbally approved me, who had asked me to send my banking details. Didn't go through the portal. It went to his personal email, or not personal, his business email. And I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
No, well, who's the lawsuit against? Is it
Right.
just against Face?
Right. So to Face the organization, Tiffany Callender represents Face. It is against Essie Samuel, who was my assessor, and I found out when I sent the letter to Face on January 4th. Christelle Francois told me that Essie Samuel was no longer an employee with Face, and when I served him at the address on file, um, there has been some talk to whether or not he was um, fired or if he left on his own accord. Um, and the other person is Victor Paris. Victor Paris is the head of the loan program, and Victor Paris was also the individual who called me and said, Face cannot support it, which was fine. Um, but he was also the person who I'd asked specifically, and I'd written him and asked him in a text message uh, to provide that information, and he has not. And he's a lead loans officer.
Okay.
And if you're the lead loans officer, you cannot, in writing, tell me why I was approved and why I'm not approved 4 months later, 3 or 4 months later.
So,
He's named in a lawsuit.
so Earl Anderson is asking, when were you given the green light to start developing? Doesn't that mean the developer should start hiring and bidding? My question is, were there any signed documents along the way? I think that's the real question. Were there any signed documents along the way?
Yeah. Yeah, I think I was given, in fact, I know I was given some forms from BDC, and I was told at the time that it was just a formality. BDC was basically a rubber stamp that Face approved it, and then BDC. I don't know what they did.
So,
So yes, there were documents. There were documents that I had signed with an understanding that yes, you're approved. BDC just wants these documents. So yes, I did sign those documents with
so,
an
so
understanding.
did those documents say that you were approved?
No,
Okay.
no, those here. But let me explain. The documents did not say I was approved. Essie Samuel said that I was approved. All the invitations and all the communications after that was based on that conversation, that I was approved. Um, they have not sent me information that Mrs. Lindow, you are not approved. Your application has been denied. That information has not come to me. So I'm happy to say, was anything written down? No, but I'm also equally strong in saying that I wrote them, telling them that I was approved and what's happening, and they had an obligation to write me or call me to say, I'm sorry, you are not. There are multiple emails along the way to say, I've been approved, what's happening? And they never took the opportunity to reach out and say, you are not. I was approved at the end of June. It took until September before they even responded to my email request, before somebody answered my phone calls, before the ministry staff were able to answer what was going on. So nobody answered my written calls. And I think that we have to be clear about that. There's so much that I can do to say I've been approved, what's going on. The organization never wrote me back and said, Mrs. Lindow, you are not approved. Never did. So if we're looking at written pieces of paper, where's a written piece of paper that says I am not approved when I'm telling you that I have been? Where's the responsibility on the part of Face to reach out, anybody to reach out and say, we are sorry, unfortunately, but you have not been approved, and here are the reasons why. That has never happened. And as far as I'm concerned, that is discriminatory abuse. because you understand and you know that I am a part of a community that, um, again, has gone through a significant amount of challenges. It's up to the organization to a certain extent just to fulfill their basic basic responsibility. Answer an email. Tell her no. They didn't do that.
Okay.
Now they're being sued.
So what's the next steps?
Well, the next step is that I'm waiting for a response. I did get a response from Gowling, and I don't know the gentleman who said that Gowling is great. I think they are. I wanted to have them to represent me. I think the next step is I wait for the response from the defendant, from FACE, and I also received an email last week from a lawyer representing S.E. Samuel, and that they have asked for an extension until sometime in May to provide their defense. So as we sit here right now, I don't know what their defense is. Outside of, I don't know, and I'm waiting for that. And once I have their defense, I think the next step would be whether I am able to secure legal representation, or just to follow the procedure of Superior Court of Ontario.
How many other people have aligned with you in this court action?
So far, the numbers are, let's say, double digits for sure. But who knows? After the Globe and Mail, there might be 14,000 who want to throw their name behind it, to say, I should not be treated like this. If I send you an email or you tell me I'm not, after I've given you, my ages of my children and yada yada yada. No, I mean, ages of your children is not the end of the world. I think we want to have an organization that has standards and treats people who are underrepresented and undervalued with a lot more respect and dignity than what we've received. And it's not that we're asking for loans to be approved. That's not it, because loans will be denied, absolutely. But answer the emails and let us know why, and let us know how we can improve ourselves and how we can help you and you can help us. I think that's what we're asking for. And it's amazing that at this point we're just asking for communication.
Is there anything else you're asking for?
Yeah, I think ideally I'd like the Honorable Marcy Ian to oversee the program, because I think it speaks to everything in her portfolio: women, equity issues, youth. I think we need to have strong leadership, not only with an organization like FACE, but we have to recognize the injustice that's happened, and to hold those who keep perpetrating that level of disrespect and dishonor. We have to hold them accountable, black or white.
What would you like Black Canadians to learn from your experience?
I did some research into the Black community in terms of education and socioeconomic issues, and we are a vibrant, strong, and also complex or community. I think that there's the reliance that, it's a mom and pop. Well, there are not a lot that are mom and pops. The Black community is incredibly strong, incredibly resilient, and can make a significant contribution, both economically, socially, culturally, to the fabric of Canada. I think to be able to give us Um, not so much the opportunity, because it's not like, we're begging for it. Um, to be able to value our skills, our resources, our intelligence, our diversity, um, would certainly be something. And that, again, the message to the Black community: it's not your fault that you weren't approved. This is not your fault. Filling out an application that requires you to talk about the intimate aspects of your life is not an application that you should be filling out in order to get money. You should be treated with respect. You should have somebody assigned to your file that you can talk with and get a deeper understanding of what the program is about, what the expectations are, and to be able to find connections to and with other, fellow CEOs. This is not on us. This is not on the Black community. This is 100% the responsibility of Tiffany Callender, and Face, to recognize that had they been a white organization, they would be gone, um, and to show a lot more understanding, respect for the community that they're meant to serve. And if they can't do that, then they should gracefully step away and allow somebody else who has that deep understanding, who can understand what the challenges are to Black CEOs, to have individuals like that in the position to support and advance the rich culture of Black Canadians.
One last question before we let you go. The middle group was asking, Angela, in your conversation, you did mention discrimination. Is it discrimination or incompetence
Well,
that resulted in your loss of future revenue and business losses for you?
Thank you. That is a good question. It is. I think it's organizational incompetence. I think it's institutional negligence on their part, and I think it's discriminatory abuse. Those three elements we have seen repeated by the actions of Face in my particular situation, and I know that I have fellow Black CEOs that share the same experience that I have with Face. Um, I'm sorry. So the question was, um, is it discriminatory? It's discriminatory abuse. It's when you know that you can call somebody and tell them that they're approved. It's interesting because $9 million is going to a call center. So they're recognizing the value of verbal communication back and forth. The written conversation is important as well. Um, I
Okay. We'll leave it at that. We're going to shut it down today. Well, Angela, I'd like to say thank you for taking time out of your positive, productive schedule to come and share about this. I think this is the first full conversation you've had about this situation. There have been some people saying, how do they contact you? If you want to contact her, there you go. There's the email address, lindowangela@yahoo.com. Thank you for taking the time in regards to this unfortunate situation, because unfortunately, all Black Canadians are affected by this.
Yes.
Whether you're a business owner or not, this is affecting all of us directly or indirectly. But I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to share with us today. If you ever would like to come back, you certainly will be able to come back here and share with us. So hope that you and the family and your fellow entrepreneurs
Yes.
get clarity and sunlight going forward.
And I want to thank you for allowing me to come on your show and speak candidly about an issue that I think is very, very sad, um, but it's fixable. And so thank you for what you do for the Black community. And I thank all those who've listened to me. And I invite you to connect with me and share your thoughts. good or bad, it is what it is. I'm happy to take those. So thank you very much for sharing this morning with me and
Well,
your whole.
remember to give yourself grace, you and your family and the people that you're representing, and also remember not only to manage your time but manage your energy.
Thank you. It's been
Take
a
care.
pleasure. Thank you.
All right, folks. So that is the end of another epic conversation. Again, there is Angela's contact information if you would like to chat with her further digitally. I'd like to thank everybody who watched. Like, most of you did not leave. You wanted to hear the full story. So just a few things coming up. Coming up this Thursday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time, Chris Hannay from the Globe and Mail, who wrote two stories last week about the whole situation about the black loan situation, entrepreneur loan situation in Canada. We would have done it on Friday, but Friday is Good Friday, and we know most of you will probably maybe having bun and cheese or at church or going away for the weekend. So Thursday morning we have Chris on, and he actually wrote the articles in the Globe and Mail. So please check that out. All right. Other things we want to put up again. This episode of the Morning Vibe, sponsored by the Macmillan Group, and there is their website information and their phone number. They are licensed to do mortgages in Canada, the United States, and throughout many parts of the Caribbean. So we want to just say that. And then finally, the views and opinions expressed on the Morning Vibe are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the Morning Vibe. So I'd like to say thank you, everyone who catch this live or on the replay. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of replays on this conversation. So please check it out. Also, to catch replays of the Morning Vibe, you can go to the Dr. Vibe show on YouTube and Facebook, Afro-Canadian Business Network on Facebook and YouTube, and around Ryan Oneil Knight on YouTube. All right. So as always, we close out with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions, then aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. Remember to give yourselves grace. And again, also, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And yeah, please subscribe so you get notified. We have many epic conversations like this all the time. Again, not Friday this week. Well, Friday we'll probably be doing a replay, but live this week again on Thursday. Chris Hannay, who wrote two articles last week. Chris Hannay from the Globe and Mail, who wrote two articles last week on the whole situation about the Black entrepreneur loan situation that's been going on for a little while. Look forward to seeing you. God bless. Peace to all. Keep the faith. Walk good. And again, thanks for watching.